Hello, Happy New Year. We're back again, ladies and gentlemen, and just thank all of you for your responding to what we're trying to do here at the International Office of SCLC. And ladies and gentlemen, that's just getting the facts out. You know, so many people call and say, I wouldn't have known that if SCLC and under the leadership of your office as president, that you did the research and you have researchers that gives us the opportunity to know what's going on. I can't help but think about the 3 ills in society that Dr. King talked about. And in talking to you today, I would like to entitle it The State of the Civil Rights Movement from the Southern Christian Leadership Conference Perspective. We're a direct action organization. Many people say you can't do that anymore. Charles, time has changed. Yeah, time has changed, which means we gone back. Which means we need the civil rights movement and SCLC now more than ever. You know, I was just thinking, and I'm not getting biblical, but I am. You know, in the book of Judges, I think it's in the second chapter. Maybe you can start reading around 11th verse. And it talks about the children of Israel, how they forgot about conveying to the next generation. Or if they conveyed it to the next generation, it wasn't received. You know, we're trying to convey whatever we have, but, you know, you cannot categorize people because of what generation they happen to be in if it's factual. If it's the bridge that brought you across. You know, many times when you read the Bible, and I'm referring to at this particular time in the book of Judges, where the children of Israel forgot about who brought them through. They looking for a king. They looking for a new king. But guess who the king is? Guess who freed them? God. God is all our king in terms of the Trinity. The Father, the Son, the Holy God. I don't want to get too deep because, you know, we sometimes have to spoon feed not only others, but all of us. So just think about that. You already have a king. In a democracy, you do have a king if you recognize who brought you out of Egypt, who brought you out of slavery, who brought you out of Jim Crow. Oh, Jim Crow? Ladies and gentlemen, we are back in Jim Crow. 10 years ago, when the U.S. Supreme Court gutted, I got to go back 10 years. That's when it started. But these particular people have been working on this for 30 years to relinquish all of the successes and the accomplishments that we as African Americans and poor folks alike, what we have been successful at obtaining. And I have a cliche that says, it's easier to obtain than to maintain. Wow. You can obtain it, but how are you going to maintain it? Because we become relaxed. We become complacent. So 10 years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, June the 25th, they gutted the 1965 Voter Rights Act, a Section 4 and Section 5 dealing with preclearance. That eliminated the federal government from getting involved to a major degree because you're going back to state rights before any states could change, and particularly those with the tradition of having a racism as their motivator, racism from the past, from the transatlantic African slave trade, where colored folks, Negroes, black folks, African Americans were enslaved in this country. It's been 10 years since the gutting of the 1965 Voter Rights Act of Section 4, Section 5, which basically dealt with the preclearance of any gerrymandering anticipation of any state, and particularly states with a history of discriminatory practices in voting. We don't have that anymore. 10 years ago, it was gutted. So what I'm saying is that just a few weeks ago, you had the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals out of Arkansas. That included Missouri, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota. What happened was that 2-1, the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals came about supporting the fact that we cannot make any complaints. We cannot refer to any racial discrimination in the voter rights. That's Section 2, ladies and gentlemen. You're talking about the 1965 Voter Rights Act. Section 2 says that we can complain if it's racial discrimination. We can complain. But now, with the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, which the enemy going to try to take it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. And you know how that would stand. They've already gutted the 1965 Voter Rights Act, Section 4 and Section 5, in terms of giving the power back to the states. But the 8th Circuit Court of Appeal, Missouri, Arkansas, Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota, those states right now has been influenced by racism in terms of the courts. Racism is a virus, and we've never been healed from it, from any side within this country. America must be healed. So what that says is that if I go to vote and I get to the door and the polls close at 7, I get there at 7, been in line for 2 or 3 hours. Then the authorities who are handling the election concerns at the poll, the election officials can say you cannot vote. No group or individual, this is the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals that just voted 2-1. And it's going to make its way to the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court. They're saying I cannot, nor you or anyone else can file a complaint. Only to the Attorney General. You cannot file as an individual or an organization. This is America. Will we have the same republic a year from today that we have today? If it's left up to certain individuals, we might have a dictatorial system if you're not careful. Because every accomplishment that people of color has obtained under this system, which is for the freedom of the world, to set the example. We're the best country in the world. For us to have this type of mindset and to take us back to Jim Crow and then to the plantation and then to modern day slavery. That's what we're confronted, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to have to hold all of our elected officials, business people, corporate America. They couldn't do it without support of money and resources. So if you're fair-minded and you want to do the right thing, you must support SCLC and other civil rights organizations who stands for what is right. As I close, it's all about economics, ladies and gentlemen. We're into economic slavery at this particular time. You talk about number 1, economics. Number 2, economics, but I ain't going there. Number 1, economics. It's greed. It's full of greed within this system. Full of greed. Economics, number 1. Number 2, politics. Why you say number 2, politics, Steele? Why you didn't say education or anything else? Education is number 5, matter of fact. economics because economics control politics. It's the money that's making these elected officials and those who want to be re-elected again. It's the money from the economics that's pursuing them and making them to be greedy and greedier than thou. They want all of the money, and they don't want 80% of us to have none. If you don't have a bank account, and if you have a bank account and you have good credit, you still can't get a loan at the bank, even if you know the manager of the bank. You got to go through an underwriter, someone you never met before. They don't know you, you don't know them. The whole idea of being a human being is working with people and having relationships. And people knowing that you are of good quality and you need this loan. No, you have good credit, but you can't get a loan. You have to go through an underwriter. And most of us, 70 to 80% of us, we're living from check to check. Let us miss one check, and we're in poverty. And you know what's happening? This system is making it a crime to be poor. It has just gotten to that. It's criminal to be poor. Ladies and gentlemen, open your eyes. We're in a desperate situation. Number 3, law enforcement. We must control our law enforcement, have a relationship with law enforcement. Number 4 is media. We must have a say-so on what goes and what's being conveyed in terms of the news and the media. If you're a very powerful media network, you control what goes in there. I'm not going to tell you anything that's going to better your condition because that's part of the system. And it's racism. We've never been healed from it. Number 5, education. Education is number 5. You get economics, number 1, you get politics, number 2, because the economics control politics. And it control education. There's so much history in education and so much to do with us being informed that this country denied and hid from us as a people. They didn't want us to know it. They don't want to pass it on to the next generation. $84 trillion by venture capitalists was invested into small and large businesses in the last 2 years. $84 trillion. Black folks got less than 1/2 of 1%. Do I need to say that again? $84 trillion, not with a B, with a T. Black folks got less than 1/2 of 1%. They don't want you to have the economics opportunity. Black people have lost, through my research and my researchers, we have lost black wealth up until 65% of our black wealth has been lost in the last 10 years. What's black wealth? Our homes. Do you know any people that's being evicted today? Have already been evicted? Just come here to Atlanta, Georgia on Auburn Avenue, which used to be Black Wall Street, like in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Used to have black businesses everywhere. Now it's black, but it's full of homelessness and drugs and folks walking around without clothes, sleeping on the street behind our building here at SCLC. If you want to see what's going on, come downtown Atlanta, Georgia. That's Auburn Avenue where Dr. King's office used to be. The homelessness is pathetic. Does anyone care about what's going on with those who are less fortunate? Too many of us are too greedy to lend a helping hand. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, black women got 0.0% in the venture capitalists when they putting out $84 trillion. This is my State of the Union message for civil rights that's being perfected and being elevated in terms of informing you from the office of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. God bless you. Dr. King, on his birthday would be 95 years of age. Dr. King's spirit is strong, not only in me, but throughout this office and throughout this building and throughout this organization. 95 years of age. I just asked the question, what would he say if he would come back today about the progression of our people? We have forgotten about the old civil rights songs. You go march now, there are songs we never heard before. You don't forget the bridge that brought you across. Ain't going to let nobody turn me around. Those are the type of songs that got us across. Those hymns that we had in the old Baptist and Methodist churches. You cannot forget your past. That's what happened in the book of Judges. You read it, the 2nd chapter, 11th verse, how they forgot about their history and who freed them. God bless you and have a great and a prosperous Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. birthday. God bless you.